Welcome back to Long-Form Gibberish. This is going to be the second episode in hopefully a long-standing series. Hopefully I can become a fan favorite. That would be phenomenal. So, last episode, we pretty much just talked about general setup and kind of why I'm doing this podcast and what I want it to become. And I can expand about that, and I'll probably just continue talking about whatever comes to mind. I did have a few ideas about stuff. So first off, very excited to get this second episode underway. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to. I was hoping to get to this second episode last week, so I could have 2 episodes per week, but just couldn't quite do it. I just wasn't able to get that under my belt, which is a bummer, but you got to start somewhere. So luckily this time I think I'll be able to have my voice sound less robotic. The first episode, I listened to a bit of it and it was just like, ooh, it was a bit rough. Let's just say that. So this episode, again, if you have any questions or topics you want me to talk about and cover, or if possibly you'd want to be a guest on this series, you can email me at longformgibberish@gmail.com. So that would be longformgibberish@gmail.com. So longformgibberish@gmail.com. You can find me and follow me at all the places to do that. I haven't uploaded the podcast to everywhere because you need to get a few different things set up, and I got this one website called anchor.fm. I think it was anchor.fm. Let me just double check that. Yeah, anchor.fm. Supposedly it's supposed to upload your podcast to just everywhere. And right now, actually, nice. So it's updated it to where it's actually on 4 different websites, which is very cool. I don't think anyone's actually listened to it on any of those websites yet. So, that's a bit of a bummer. But I mean, do what you can. So right now it's on Breaker, which I haven't used this website before. Breaker.audio/long-form-gibberish. So very simple. I'm sure it's nice and easy to use. Yeah. So Breaker.audio. I wonder if that's a good website. Looks like it's mostly an app, but I'm sure it'd be good. I'm sure they have some decent stuff. They have, of course, pretty much all podcasts. Basically, like, if you can find a podcast on one website, it's probably pretty much everywhere. They do have, what was it called? I saw it the other day. It's a place to get paid for podcasts, so you don't have any ads or anything like that in them, which is cool. I don't know if I'd bother paying for something like that, just because it seems little bit expensive. I can't remember how much it was. It might be worth it if you could get that, because then you don't have to deal with people putting any form of ads inside of their podcast. But I don't mind them. It's just they're trying to get money through their ads, which is support 100%, as long as they don't go like way overzealous with it. Man, when you're watching like a YouTube video or listening to a podcast and every other word is a freaking ad, and then they get 30 seconds of no ads, and then boom, ad after ad after ad. Man, it gets infuriating. Like, I'll stop watching videos if there's too many ads. That being said, if there's like 1, 2, or 3, that's fine. It's just when it gets to be like every 5 minutes or so there's an ad. It gets rough. Like, even apps that you download an app, you're playing it, it seems pretty fun. You die, there's an ad. Like, okay, you want to play again, there's an ad. Okay, then you die, ad. Play again, ad. When it's one of those games that you die and you're supposed to be able to come back really fast, but there's just ad after ad, it's unbearable. I won't even play it. It's just ridiculous. Other than that, so it looks like my podcast is supposed to also be on Google Podcasts, but when I try and open it up, it says not found, which I don't know if that's just because I think Google Podcasts is I think it's a phone app mostly. Yeah, it looks like it. So it's probably just on the phone. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's just an app. So my podcast is also on Google Podcasts if you want to listen to it there. I was talking to my wife, beautiful woman, just fantastic. But I was talking to her, and she was talking about some people on Facebook talking about one thing or another, and I was thinking about it. Man, I would love to have those people on this podcast so I could talk to them. And again, I wanted to, before I bring in people to talk to on this podcast, I figured I might as well at least kind of have somewhat of a maybe not following, but at least some episodes up. So even if I don't have a whole lot of followers, because again, I'm doing this just because I want to talk to people and just kind of talk out loud. Which, man, I was, after my last episode, again, it was rough, but after my last episode, I realized just how hard it is to talk to yourself. Like, it's hard for me to think of words coming up, and then when another topic comes on, it's like, man, how do I string this all together to form a coherent narrative? Because you listen to other people online, and whether they're talking to themselves or talking to somebody else, it sounds more like a coherent narrative where I'm just jumping around just absolutely just constantly, and it's pretty rough sometimes, where you can't keep a coherent narrative. So that's a bit of a bummer. I also have a RSS feed, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, coherent narratives, very difficult to think of and say. I don't know. It's hard to have a coherent narrative, so I definitely have a lot higher respect for people who do podcasts alone. Again, that my ultimate goal is to have multiple people on so I can talk to them. But yeah, those people who do a coherent narrative while they're podcasting is impressive. And I used to think that, hey, I can do this easy, no problem. I got the gift of gab. It'll be no issue. But lo and behold, it's very difficult. So I don't know if there's anyone who wants a certain topic to be talked about, 'cause I think I could get some really interesting perspectives on this podcast in particular. Just about of anything. I have a lot of people that I've kind of listed out in my head of who I could talk to and about what. And I think I mentioned it on my last podcast. I've one of my brothers for just about, he has some interesting ideas on just about anything as well. Another one of my brothers for like either financing or religion, or I got a cousin who's, he's more of the, I don't even know if a lot of these people would sit down and talk to me. But one of my cousins I was thinking about today, he's more on the liberal or left side. I put, air quotes in liberal because I don't care who you are, but they're really not liberal. So, and I hate how everyone says, oh, I'm a classic liberal and they're a liberal. No, they're not liberals. You're just, liberal is classic liberal. You shouldn't have to make a distinction. But, now in today's society, I guess it's what you got to do, which it, again, sucks that you have to do that kind of thing, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, it's real interesting. So as far as what's gonna keep this podcast going, because right now it kind of seems like I don't have any plans or anything with this podcast, but I am trying to work and get some people to talk to about just different things. Like I've been on Facebook a lot and YouTube and everything. Like I've talked to about the last episode where I kind of showed some of my YouTube numbers of how much I listen to, which is just way too much. But after looking at that, and I've seen tons of people start a YouTube channel or something under one name, and they get pretty popular off that one name or one kind of video that they upload, and eventually they stop making videos for a few months or to a year or something like that, and then they come back and they say, hey, I'm rebranding my name to just their actual name rather than like the name of the video series they have. And they talk like, well, I don't want to say stifling creativity because I feel like you can still be creative while under one name, but they do say like, oh, they didn't feel like they could make the videos that they wanted to make and like try out different things under that same name, because then people who are subscribed just off that name go, hey, I wasn't expecting this kind of episode. I was expecting the kind of episode that I originally got me here. But if he changes his name, then he can go, or he or she or whatever, if they change their name, then they can upload other kinds of videos that don't have anything to do with that first, the name that they had, which makes it so that they can kind of play around with different niches and markets and try and see what they can get. And, obviously at that point, if people listen to your channel and they go, hey, I don't really care for that, then they don't have to listen to that episode. But then they know, well, maybe the next thing might be good, so they can still be longtime listeners of the channel. But other than that, it's just different things. So I wanted to make sure that I name this channel appropriately to my liking, because I don't want to kind of stifle anything where I feel like I can't talk about this subject or that subject because I'm generally talking about like tech or politics or sports or something stupid like that, to where I can't then talk about the other subjects that I want to talk about. I mean, for instance, right now in the tech sector, there's some freaking cool stuff going on. You have AMD releasing some really good stuff. Unfortunately, they've had quite a bit of problems from they don't have enough, and the demand's super high, so you have a supply and demand just way out of whack, which has been a bummer. And hopefully this will just give some competition to Intel, because if you don't know anything about tech, AMD and Intel, they make CPUs. AMD also makes GPUs, which is your graphics card. But Intel and AMD, and Intel's trying to break into the graphics card market, but AMD and Intel, they're the two top dogs. There's some stuff that's coming out that it's supposed to kind of be like a crowdsourced CPU or processor. It's the brains of the computer. It's the thing doing all the calculations pretty much. And what's really cool that's going on is AMD, for a long time, they were always second best. Like if you're building a cheap computer, you're building AMD. And if you wanted a nice like performance, just top of the line, you're going to go with Intel. Now what's happening is that for price per performance, AMD is absolutely the way to go. If you're just playing video games, sure, you probably want Intel. But if you're doing anything else, rendering out a video, creating anything, if you're trying to make money on your computer besides just playing, I guess, yeah, even if you're just playing video games but you want to make money with it, so you're streaming or something like that, you're probably going to want AMD because they'll be able to capture your frames, unless you build like a second computer that can capture your frames and then have that one be AMD, and then your first one to get more frames, you play Intel. And that's just a different way. But when you're going top of the line on both, you're really splitting nose hairs, which just, yeah, like, so my friend just barely bought an Intel-based computer. He bought an Intel Core i9, I think 9900K. Very powerful CPU, just top of the line, It's super nice. I guess not top of the line. The fastest consumer CPU chip that's not server CPU is, I can't remember what it was called, but it's like $1,000 right now from Intel. But you can buy the Core i9 9900K for, I think, $400 to $500. I can't remember. I wouldn't quote myself on that priceage. But it's really nice, very powerful, and it's going to get you all the frames that you could ask for, as long as your graphics card can handle it. And he bought a nice NVIDIA graphics card. They're pretty much, they don't have a whole lot of, NVIDIA pretty much doesn't have any sort of competition. AMD is fortunately putting in some competition into the market, which is awesome, because I've always been AMD just because they were cheaper, and I can't spend tons of money on a computer when you just can't do that, especially if you have a wife and a kid on the way and stuff like that. So it's very fun to see more competition in the marketplace. That way everyone wins. The consumers win because you're going to get cheaper products, and the people who are going to spend the money, more consumers, are going to win because you're going to get faster products. So the people on the lower end win, the people on the medium end win. Everyone wins when there's competition. But for like we had for a few years there's basically no competition, because it was just you wanted a good processor, you're going with Intel. You want a good graphics card, you're going with NVIDIA. And, you're paying for that performance, but you're getting what you paid for. Whereas now that AMD's finally picking themselves up, they're really getting themselves out there. It's awesome. I'm way excited to see it. I was talking to my brother-in-law, and he's still Intel. He's still saying go with all them, but I don't know. From all my research that I've done, and I've done quite a bit, I love this kind of stuff. I 100% think the way to go right now for price per performance, doing anything other than just gaming, again, just gaming. If you wanted to stream with only one computer, you're going AMD. If you're creating content, you're going AMD. If you want to, like, most programs run better, unless it's a game, on AMD. As far as I've heard and as far as I've read, there are, of course, exceptions to that. I think Adobe programs run decent or run better with Intel. I can't quite remember. Either way, so now that AMD's kind of picking themselves up, going about it, and they've gotten a lot of good press, this means that they now have a shortage of processors and GPUs, I guess. I don't know. It's been really hard to find their top-of-the-line flagship CPU, which is the Ryzen 3900X, and they're supposed to be coming out with the Ryzen 3950X in November. They just released that they'll be releasing it in November. They had a ton of speculation that it was going to happen at the end of September, so it's September 30th, because everyone was thinking they wanted to hit that September timeline. And then they were thinking, well, maybe it'll happen on October 7th, because apparently, if you look at their AMD's history, they like releasing stuff on the 7th. So they were hoping that they would do that, but AMD released some announcements saying, hey, we're going to release it in November. We don't know when in November. Again, it could be anywhere from the 7th November to the end. I don't really know. I don't follow their press all that much. But I do love following what they're doing in the market, because this is basically going to force Intel to really compete. Finally, they have competition. So they've been working on a 10 nanometer process for their CPUs for a long time. I don't even know when they started working on it, but everyone's saying that for a long time, Intel's been trying to push their 10 nanometer process, but it keeps getting pushed back, because they don't have any competition. Now that they have some competition in the marketplace, they're really going to have to step it up a notch, and I'm hoping to see some prices come down, some performance go up, and just get the best of both worlds there. Now, obviously, you're going to get the current stuff priced, it'll get priced lower, and then the next gen stuff is going to be priced higher, but you're paying for what you get, and it's going to be darn good, which is awesome. It's what it is. But it's cool to see, and I love seeing that. And if I had started my channel on, hey, I'm just going to talk about computers and stuff, after that whole long, 3, 4 minute, 5 minute thing, I'm sure I could think of more stuff to say, because I always can. I got the gift of gab. I can just talk, but I feel better when I'm talking to somebody else. Anyway, if I was just talking about tech, I'd kind of run out of stuff right there. For now, I would have to create probably bullet points of different subjects that I want to talk about, and then I could go off for a long time on those subjects. But for now, I wanted to talk about multiple other things. So say we talk about finances or something. I can't talk quite as long about finances as other people can, unfortunately, because, man, you get some people going and they really know their stuff. Again, I don't know my stuff. I just get excited about it. Tech, I know a bit more about, but I get way excited about it. As far as finances go, I get excited about it, but I don't know a whole ton. So obviously, anything I say on here, completely subjection. I don't have any training or anything like that as far as it comes to finances. So definitely don't take any of my advice. That would just be basically bad advice is following this conversation. I love trying to mess with finances. It's so much fun if you're making decent money to where you can kind of move that money around. So at my work, I get some money. So I obviously that's because I'm working. So I have some money, and I have to pay all my bills with all that money. And then there's a little bit of money that I put into savings, so I have a nice little nest egg in case something goes wrong. There's a lot of finances guys that say, hey, pay off your house or pay all your bills or pay off all your loans and mortgages and stuff before you save up, which I don't agree with that. I think obviously you need to pay your down payments or all your mortgages and stuff like that. And I would suggest paying more than the monthly amount. But I think you should always put some away to savings, which if you can find a high interest savings account, those are easily findable. If you go to one called Wealthfront, fantastic website. I'll actually put the link in the description to my not my Wealthfront account, but my referral link. So if you go there, you get I think $5 extra grand that they manage for free if you're starting a Roth IRA. But anyway, we're talking about interest or saving interest rates. Right now, their saving interest rate actually just changed because they let me look up what it is so I actually know what I'm talking about here. They had to change their interest rate on their savings account from 2.32 to now it's 2.07 APY. Basically, they couldn't keep it where it was at because the feds dropped the rates or something like that. I don't know. Again, I don't know a ton about it, but my like a savings account I have with a bank, like a local bank where I live, originally it was I think 0.01 APY. So every year I get 0.01 of my money, where I had a couple grand in my bank, and it was every month I'd get like 30-40 cents from it. Now I only put like $200 in my Wealthfront account, and it's already gotten me back. Granted, the interest rate's a little lower now, which is a bummer, or the APY is a little lower. Now that I have that, the savings account with Wealthfront, it got me like 30 or 40 cents from $200 to a couple grand. Like, I don't want to say exactly how much I have in my bank, but it was a couple grand in there. So it was pretty cool to see that my $200 was getting me more money than my couple grand every month, which it's not a whole lot. It's, if that's what you can, I would prefer to invest it in like a Roth IRA or something, or an IRA, depending on which one you want to go with. I prefer the Roth IRA. I think it makes more sense for younger people, and the IRA for older people. But I can't quite remember the difference between the two. I think the Roth IRA was you were getting taxed as you put the money in, and it's like pre-tax, or you put the money in and it was already taxed money. So when you get it out later, when you're like 54 or something, then it's no longer, it doesn't get taxed when you pull it out. The IRA, I think you can put your money in pre-tax and it comes out taxed. So I don't know exactly the benefits and drawbacks from each one. I'm sure they have both of them. I would highly suggest going and looking that up. I use the company, like I was saying, I use Wealthfront. And I'll put the link down below in the description, or wherever you're finding this. I'll put the link somewhere that you can go and actually use my referral link, and you'll get like $5 extra grand to be handled for free. So Wealthfront does this thing where it's a very small fee once they do start charging you. And I think for mine, they only start charging me once I have over 10 grand in there, which I only have like 2 grand in there, so it's not that big of a deal. But once you're over 10 grand, they start charging just a very, very small amount. And I can't remember the amount, but they do, for the most part, like as you're starting out, it's free, so that once it gets bigger and bigger, it'll kind of handle itself, and then they'll take a small little bit. But there's also another company that a good friend of mine uses called Betterment. I believe it's Betterment. Anyway, he uses that one. He just barely started, so he only has a few $100s in there. And he just puts, I think 10%, or no, it was 5%. I think it was 10% of his money every month that he gets from his checks. Puts 10% in there, which is really cool. Him and his wife do it. They just put it into one account. I'm going to start another Wealthfront account with my wife so that we both hopefully kind of get our own going. Because with IRA's account, if you don't know anything about them, with IRA accounts, Roth or IRA, you can only put up to $6 grand a year in there. So if I was to say create a second Roth IRA, between the two of them, I could only put $6 grand a year into them. So 3 grand in one, 3 grand in the other, and then I can't put any more money in, which is a bummer because it would be cool to just put more and more money into. Obviously, right now, there's no way I can hit that $6 grand a year. So I'm just putting in at least $100 a month. And I've only started that this year. I've had the account for a couple of years. Last year, I wasn't able to put any money in it at all. I was getting married, I wasn't getting married last year. I was trying to save up for a down payment on a house and do a few other things. With a Roth IRA account, don't put any money in that you that you have to use later because it's retirement money. It 100% put it away for retirement. It's not coming back until you're, I think, 50 something you can pull it out, but I would say just leave it in there for as long as you can. You're 60 or 70 or whenever you decide to retire, then pull the money out. But it's super nice to have. I would, if you're young, absolutely start it. If you're older, start it. But when you're younger, absolutely start it. Because I was talking to my father-in-law, and he was telling me of this. I think it's just the math. I don't know if there's an actual story about this, but the math on it is that if some kid, say 18 or 19, and I assume you have to be 18 to start these accounts, I'm not sure, but say a kid, 18 or 19, starts a IRA account or Roth or whatever. He starts one, and his friend's 19 too. He's one kid, 19, starts it. The other kid doesn't start it. They go until one of those kids is 20, or the kid who started it is 28, and the other guy's, assume around that age, or he's 28 too. Then the kid who started it, just he can't quite handle it. He can't put any more money in, so he's like, all right, I'm going to stop putting money in, and I'll just hold on to that money, but I won't take any money out. And the other kid says, hey, I like what he did with that Roth IRA. I'm going to start one. And he starts putting money in. Now, when they retire at 50 or 60 or whatever, the kid who started at 28 has less money in his account than the kid who ended at 28. But the kid who started at 28 put more money in. So it's that compound interest that really helps you out here. If you've ever had a high school class where the teacher tells you to go get a compound interest account, go get a compound interest, but never tells you how to get one, this is pretty much it. Get a Roth IRA or an IRA if you can. Highly, highly suggested. Hopefully it'll work. Again, it's kind of like hopefully if it'll work out. I don't actually know. I've only had it for a few years, but I've gotten quite a bit of money from it, which is super cool. They have a very nice app. They make it super easy that you can tell it, hey, if I want to retire at this age, how much money do I have to be putting in? And you can just see that grow at some point, and it's just really cool. Highly, highly suggested to go and put money in it. Start it now, just as soon as possible. This, unfortunately, was not a paid ad. I would have loved to get paid to talk about this, but I love it. I love the finances ends of it and everything like that. Another thing I would suggest to do is, if you don't know anything about investing and you don't know really how to invest, I'd say get Acorns. Again, no advertisements here, but it's really cool. My brother's been using Acorns. I'd want to talk to him about how it's been working for him. I haven't used it at all because it basically, like you've seen the ads for it probably. If not, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It just rounds your money up to the nearest dollar. So you say you bought something for $20.60. It's going to make you spend $21, and it's going to take that 40 cents that's the difference to that next dollar, and it's going to go invest it somewhere. And I don't know how their investment strategies work. I don't know if you can customize it at all. I don't know anything about it. I don't use it. But if you don't know anything about stocks and you don't want to know anything about stocks, but you want to have a little bit of money in stocks, this one is super easy. As far as I'm aware, you just set it up, it just rounds it up, takes the money, and you're done. And it invests it, and hopefully you can get money back. Again, I don't know anything about it, but I heard good things in it, and it makes sense. It makes sense to do that because you don't have to bother with anything. You set it up and you forget about it. What's 40 cents? I mean, you're going to put that 40 cents in a jar maybe, if that. Some people I know just leave the 40 cents there. It's just a nice, easy 40 cents or whatever, rounds to the nearest dollar. So it could be anywhere from 99 cents to a cent. It doesn't matter. It'll invest it. Super cool. Way excited. Like, I don't use it personally because I'm one of those people that do take all those cents and I go and put it towards something else. So I use Robinhood. Again, no advertisements. Man, I need to start getting some advertisements. Anyway, I use Robinhood, and I like them a lot because they don't take any transaction fees because, man, you can get just destroyed with transaction fees. They are it's garbage. Anyway, Robinhood, great app. I put some money in there, and I've only put like 100 and I think 50. I'd probably put more than that. Maybe it was 160. Anyway, doesn't matter. And I'm up quite a bit now. It is kind of a bummer because you know that pretty much no matter what you do, it could just get completely destroyed, which would suck so bad. And no one wants that, obviously. No one wants to be completely destroyed with, like, say the president sneezes one wrong way and then everyone freaks out and now your stocks aren't worth as much. So what I would suggest doing, and again, I don't have any I'm not a financial advisor at all. Don't, just think about it yourself, do your own research. But what I ended up doing and what I decided works best for me was I took the money that I had and I tried to find stocks that would give me I tried to find stocks that would give me what are they called? It has like a payout ratio. It was a dividend. Dividend stocks is what I look at. And those stocks are going to be the best because even if the stock goes down, you're still getting money for leaving your money in there. And again, if you think the stock would come back up, I would try and buy right there to where it's cheaper, so you buy it up again. But some stocks, they get you a pretty decent dividend or yield or whatever. So yeah, and there's tons of different stocks. I would highly suggest researching your own, finding your own stock, seeing if it has a good dividend. You don't want one paying out too much because that means they're not putting any more money into the company. But there are plenty that put plenty of money into the company and plenty of money goes to the stockholders, and that's absolutely the way to go. I'll also leave my Robinhood link in the description below. It's a referral link. All it does is gives if you use my link to sign up, it gives you a free stock. It can be anywhere from a very expensive stock to a very cheap stock. I don't know. I've only gotten somewhat cheap stocks from it. But so if you sign up using my link, you'll get a free stock. I'll get a free stock. Everybody's happy. I've only gotten like 2 people to do it, but they got a free stock and I got a free stock. And the stocks that I've gotten were relatively cheaper. I think one was like $5 and one was, I think, $1. But it's very cool. That's free money. I could go and sell those and have $6. And they've gone up a bit from there. I think one at some point was $7. This was the $5 one. So if I would have sold it at that point, and it's gone down a bit and gone up. But, it's basically free money. I didn't have to do anything for that other than have somebody else sign up and start investing their money in. And it's completely free. You don't have to, obviously, besides paying for the stocks. So if you sign up using my account, you buy a stock and then you get a stock back. So you just have to use, I think, some money some money on their account or on their app. But very, very cool. Highly suggested to invest in stuff. Very excited to see what the tech sector's doing. Very excited to see what just is going on in the world. It's very fun to pay attention to everything. Pay attention to politics, to finances, to tech stuff, to, I don't know, I'm sure there's tons more subjects that I want to talk about. But I think that's about it for this episode. Otherwise, I'm going to need more material for next episode. So this has been Dallin Kelch with Long Form Gibberish. I hope you all have a great day.